Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next issue. I'm your host, The Power Trip, and this week I'm going to touch base on a few extra parts of Civil War II that we didn't touch upon last week. Now, last week, if you read the article, we kind of went more into the moral of the story, so to speak, the big choosing of the sides. Are you for the ability to stop crimes ahead of time, or are you for letting someone commit the crime first because it's just not right to punish someone for something they've not done yet. It's a very slippery slope there. We've seen it in several stories and movies over time, and it really is a slippery slope. If you could predict the future and stop someone, and we're not talking about stopping someone, because I mean, if you caught a vision of yourself, or not of yourself, but of somebody about to rob a bank or hurt your best friend or whatever, you might go to that place and watch and make sure, see if things are about to start to occur the way that they're going to, or maybe even put in some preventative measures to keep it from happening in the first place, which may or may not matter because if it's meant to happen, it may just happen regardless. But I'm talking about actually being arrested for the crime. It's one thing to try and stop it from happening. It's another to actually, put someone in jail for something they've not done yet. Now, in the story of Civil War II, we kind of see more of the former happen. Of the big issue here is there was a battle with Thanos, and the Avengers got the vision from the Inhuman Ulysses, and they went to stop him before Thanos could steal the Cosmic Cube. And so they were there when he got there to jump him, basically. And so that's kind of what you want to go for. But then what happens when you're trying to prevent this thing from happening and you stop it, but now you got something worse on your hands or a casualty on your hands that was not going to happen beforehand? Because in this case, War Machine, Rhodey, would have lived longer because he wouldn't have been there. Now, that's not to say he would have lived a great long time past that, but the point is, he was not meant to die there. At least per the fact that they would not have had the visions to be there ahead of time to stop Thanos. But that's once again another question to ask into that. Is it's not even which side do you choose because you're choosing over freedom to control or whatnot. There's also the question of if you have the ability to see the future and is it is there going to be a cost to trying to stop it? It's in your mind, you're like, oh, well, I can see what's going to happen, so I can take any preventative measure I want. But you don't know what stopping it, doing something that was not part of the vision, is going to do to the future or do to the present, per se. You don't know what's going to happen because you're creating something that was not meant to happen there. So random events can occur. In this case, War Machine was killed, She-Hulk critically injured. What's the long term of this? If Thanos had gotten the Cosmic Cube, and Thanos overall gets played as a villain, but in some cases he kind of has his good guy points as well. Not very often, but it does happen. But was he trying to get the cube for any particular reason? Is there something later down the line that him having the cube would have helped the heroes to prevent? Was stopping him from getting that cube worth what happened? It's for what it's worth, you could have seen the vision, saw what was going to happen, and just known, okay, we know Thanos has the cube. Instead of trying to go there to stop it, what can we do as a countermeasure to get ready for what may come that way? But once again, and I've spent a lot of time talking about the part that I wasn't really wanting to get into yet. Let's talk about some of the stuff that kind of jumped out at me that made it a little odd to me. Like, for instance, She-Hulk being critically injured. Now, She-Hulk is not quite on the level of Bruce, or in this case, also Amadeus Cho. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but she's not quite to that level, but she's still a Hulk. And Hulks have insanely high regenerative abilities. They're practically unkillable. You know, Bruce can put a gun to his head with a vibranium bullet if he wanted to, blow it right through his skull, and the Hulk's gonna get up 2 minutes later. So what was it that War Machine had in that missile that all of a sudden now She-Hulk's in a coma? You know? There's something just not right on the story there. If it had been a different character, or if they spent a little bit more time really getting into the explanations of that, you know, that I feel like there would have been a better payoff to that. It is a big thing to happen for She-Hulk of all people to be down and out. Don't get me wrong, but it's just that moment where it's like, wait, but how could this have happened? You know, it's like those moments where you're pretty sure after the death of Wolverine storyline that the main universe's Logan, while not technically alive, could easily come back at any point. And no, I don't. The way they explain it, with him being buried in adamantium, basically it grafted to his skin. He's suffocated. He can't break out. It's the strongest metal in the universe, the Marvel universe anyway. But there's like 900 other ways in the Marvel universe to get rid of that. You could easily take any of the cosmic characters and they could just magically, you know, zap him out from inside of it, or just make the adamantium go away. You don't have to think of it from a scientific point of view when you're dealing with comic books. There's 9 million ways that they could easily get him out of there. So, and they don't have to heal him or anything. You just gotta get him out from inside that adamantium exoskeleton, and his body will do the rest. That's the same thing with what's going on with She-Hulk. Hulks have an even higher healing ability than Wolverine. At least when he's got the adamantium in his body. So all this just seems really odd. Another thing that we've got coming up is the Hulk. What's been revealed, at least online in a lot of places, is the Bruce Banner Hulk is going to be going on a rampage, and something bad's going to happen. Now that they've got the vision of it, you know, there's the idea there's supposed to be a big death coming up, either in book 3 or book 4, and from the look of it, it might be time for Bruce to be taken out. Which, again, how can you do this? The only being that's really ever just waylaid the crap out of the Hulk and just could have killed him outright was technically the Red Hulk, and that's because he had the ability to just absorb all that gamma radiation out of Banner Hulk, thus rendering him completely powerless. You know, they've got another one of these weird missiles that War Machine had in his pocket that apparently can now take out Hulks left and right. I mean, it just doesn't really add up to me. Of, you know, a big character death, especially of the Hulk's caliber, it's gotta have a good story written around it. And I'm sorry I nitpick comics. I'm all about story, and if there's something blaringly obvious in front of me in the story, if it's the tiniest forgetful idea of we're not going to put one little detail in there that would make everything make sense, then it won't ruin the story for me, but it really takes me out of the story. It makes me stop and quit reading and go like, wait, I need to think about this. And I shouldn't get sucked out of the story. I'm supposed to stay sucked into the story. So to have these things happen, it kind of like, it's like flashing a light in your eyes when you're in the middle of the book. And it's like, whoa, hey, now I'm pulled out. You know, I'm completely no longer in the story now, and I've got to get myself back into it. So, I also am not a big fan of the idea that they're really, really integrating Iron Man from the movies personality a lot more into the Iron Man in the comics. It's not that much different, but in this particular case, you have Tony Stark, who in the first Civil War and in most comics, yes, he's got his weird the weirdness about how his mind works and how he operates around people and everything. But you want to tell me that this is the same guy that several years ago in the first Civil War had everything together, cool, calm, collected, and managed to operate a government group on his own, was in charge of basically global security, has had all friends that he's been around, including Steve Rogers, die. But Rhodey dying now because of this makes him create an international incident, kidnapping a citizen of another country and torturing him to get information. It's just, I understand the character's supposed to be under duress, but you can't portray Tony Stark, you can't portray a character one way and then completely 180 him the next without something. He's been through this situation before. What made this any different than how all the other people he's lost before? All the other times Rhodey has either, since it's comics, that he's either died or seemed like he was dead. Why would someone that is so ingrained in making sure he's following the law and doing what's best for the country and the people and everything, all of a sudden basically almost bring America and, once again, I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sure, Attilan, but these two differing nations to war? It just seems really out of place to me. So that's just kind of my nitpicks for how Civil War II is going. But it's still a very enjoyable story. I'm not going to take that away. But this is my personal opinions. And feel free to post under here what you guys' opinions have been. The good, the bad, I would love to hear it. Let's really get into this. Speaking of hearing things and getting into stuff, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we here at the Culture Cache have a fun little project coming up I think you guys will enjoy. And, I got that coming up soon, so this is just a little teaser of that. I'm not going to go into any real detail because it's a pretty big surprise there, but just be on the lookout for that. And that's going to be all for me this week. I'm sorry if this seemed more like a rant and a rave, but once again, it is what it is, and I hope you still enjoyed listening, learning a little bit, and hopefully I get to hear from you guys too, because I really would love to hear from you guys on your opinions on things like this, so, and how you feel about these stories. That's the key thing when it comes to comic book fans, is I love hearing other people's thoughts on stuff. And sometimes I get myself in the point where if someone mentions something that was quoted wrong or mentioned wrong in a book, I am one of those quick to kind of auto-correct, but I try to be polite about it, and I try not to say, you're just flat out wrong, but I do try to keep the quotes in there. But I love to hear how people take certain views of a story. Sometimes an event or words will happen, and I might take it one way, but another reader will take it another, and I wouldn't even think about the way they took it. So that's kind of what I like to say. I like to see what other people's views on these things are, and especially with a story as big as Civil War II happening right now, this big, huge choosing your sides on such a huge topic right now. I would love to see how many people are for or against, or for one side, and then how many are for the other. So, but that's going to be it for me this week. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week for the next issue.